Halloween is around the corner. Reddit. What is the most paranormal thing you have ever experienced? My best friend dreamed about my stepfather getting stabbed. My family was pretty white trash, and on one particular evening my uncle and stepfather got into an altercation outside of our house wherein my stepfather got stabbed in the back. He fell on me coming back inside, and in the process I got coated in blood. The cops were called and he was taken away in an ambulance as my mother and myself drove to the hospital. This was about 1 AM. This is before the internet and cell phones and all that jazz, so there was no way anyone beyond our next door neighbors knew about this. When we returned back to the house at about 4 or 5 in the morning, there was a message on the answering machine from my best friend crying, apologizing for calling so late, but asking me to call her right away because she had dreamed of me being covered in blood. The message was timestamped as the same time the incident occurred, about 1 AM. We had missed her call because we were outside with the paramedics. Just an incredible coincidence, but 2 weeks ago I was grocery shopping and I thought about a girl who hadn't come to mind in years, over a decade. We were middle school sweethearts for about a minute and then I just forgot about her until that moment. When I got home I googled her to see what she was up to. Was she still hot? And I found a blog posting about an hour old from her current so announcing that she had just passed away from cancer. When I was in the 2nd grade I had this plugin, Stand Up Happy Days pinball machine. Yep, I am feeling old. If you left it plugged in it would eventually start making sounds as if it was being played. One night I went to bed and it started making the sounds. I reached for the plug and could not find it. I jumped out of bed and turned on the light. When I did, I noticed two things simultaneously. It was not plugged in and a ball rolled between the two flippers. I did not sleep in my bed for a week. House sitting and taking care of the dogs for my aunt. It was an old farmhouse. Old as in the kitchen and bathroom were added onto the house when working plumbing became a common thing. I played some video games, watched a little TV, just winding down to go to sleep. Just laying there in the dark starting to doze off and I hear something coming from upstairs. The upstairs was an attic turned into bedrooms for my cousins. The best way I could describe it was like a pipe or a bottle. The sound of some kind of hollow object rolling back and forth across the floor in the room directly above me. I just sat there wide-eyed and scared shitless. Finally, I worked up the courage to get up and turn the lights back on. The rolling sound continued. I told myself it was just something in the walls, trying to come up with any rational explanation. I got up to turn the TV back on and just kinda drown out the sound. With the lights on I noticed the dogs, two big Rottweilers, were sitting silently in the kitchen, hair bristling and staring right at me. I backed away, honestly afraid they were going to attack me for some reason. But I realized they weren't staring at me, they were looking past me at the door that goes upstairs. Well, crap. That did nothing to settle my nerves, but there was no way in heck I was going up to investigate. I cranked up the TV, eventually coaxed the dogs into the living room, and after a while I was tired again. I left the TV on, just turned it down, laid back down on the couch and got some shut-eye. I don't know how long I was asleep, just that when I woke up it was still pitch black outside. What woke me up was the door. My feet were hanging over the arm of the couch I was sleeping on and the door that led upstairs had come open and hit my feet. If you've ever lived in an old house you will know this kind of door. It's an old door, the kind that's been warped from too many winters and rubs the frame when you shut it. The kind you would have to put your shoulder into to close it all the way and would have to really pull to open it again. Yet there it was, wide open to a pitch black staircase, the hinges creaking as it bumped against my dangling feet. I was up and out in seconds, the dogs right behind me, put my shoes on in the car, put the dogs in their kennel, and was off to sweet civilization. I didn't care about using all the gas to drive out and feed the dogs every day. I wasn't spending another night in that house. My wife is an RN and she was on float to another unit helping out. She normally worked cardiac but she was helping out in the Alzheimer's unit. She was saving a particular patient for last as the patient was known to be a real pain. Very old, mean to everyone and just generally tried to make the nurses miserable. She and the respiratory therapist got to the patient's room at the same time so they decided to tackle her together. They got into the room and the patient had smeared crap all over the walls of the bathroom and the hospital room. She was standing on the bed screaming and jumping up and down on the bed. The two of them somehow got the patient calmed down, got the horrible mess cleaned up, and got their jobs done. She said it took about 3 hours. They then went out and put a do not disturb sign on the door to make sure the patient could stay calm and get some sleep. They were standing one person on each side of the door, herself and the repertory therapist, catching their breath and proclaiming how much that sucked when they spotted someone. A big farmer looking guy wearing a John Deere baseball cap, overalls, a red plaid checkered shirt and big work boots coming down the hospital hallway, and he looked kind of annoyed. He walked right past them into the patient's room, slamming the door open. My wife caught the door on the back swing and marched right into the room after him, respiratory therapist right behind her, planning on dragging him back out and giving him a piece of her mind. When she got in the room, he was not there. No sign of the person she followed in. She looked under the bed. She looked in the bathroom. She checked behind all of the curtains. She even made sure the windows still would not open. No sign of the farmer at all. She then noticed the patient was sitting upright in the bed, just kind of staring off into space. So she asked her, "Did you just see someone come into the room?" The patient said yes. "It was my daddy. He said he was coming to take me home tonight and that you mean people won't be able to hurt me anymore." She responded with, "That's great. How about you get some rest before he comes to pick you up?" The patient then laid down and went to sleep. The patient died that night. My wife and the respiratory therapist swapped stories to make sure they were not crazy. They both saw it. TLDR. Wife saw a ghost come to pick up his daughter from the hospital. One night when I was around 12 years old, something under my bed kept tugging on my sheets and eventually fully pulled them under my bed. I sat up all night scared shitless. I checked under the bed in the morning and my sheets were balled up under the foot of my bed. One weekend I was walking through my old grade school to get into town. Small town, maybe 1,200 people. When I turn a corner of the building into the parking lot. In the parking lot was one black sedan. Nothing notable, no identifying marks, but nothing too unusual. I'm maybe 20 meters away, except the passengers. There was 4 completely white, definitely albino looking men. Bald, black eyes looking straight ahead. A moment after noticing them, they all turn and look at me in unison. Their heads snapped instantly and all 4 of them met my eyes. I jolted back around the corner, then slowly looked back around to make sure I wasn't seeing things. Nope, there was the car and the men still looking at me. Then I blinked and the car was empty. I leave the way I came, take the long road into town, all the while feeling as if I was followed. I'll never forget that day, hallucination or not. It's burned into that part of my brain that helps you frequently remember all the scary crap that's ever happened to you. When I was around 13, we had a huge German Shepherd who was 7 at the time. This dog was a beast. He wasn't afraid of anything, ever, constantly following me to school and waiting for me to come home at the foot of our driveway. All around a great dog. Again, let me re-emphasize, this dog wasn't afraid of anything. Anyway, we bought this house we were living in at the time for super cheap because the previous owner had hung himself in the downstairs coat closet and it wasn't selling fast enough. One day, I walked down the stairs to see my dog staring at the closet. Just staring. He was standing up, tail between his legs, not moving an inch, just staring at it. The door was open, which was weird, because people in my house are usually good about closing things up. I go over to Rodney, my dog, and try and see if there is something in the closet from where he is looking. Can't see anything, but the closet is super dark. I try and snap Rodney out of it, but he won't budge. He just keeps staring and staring. I had never seen my dog like this. The most horrifying part, Rodney's head is moving slightly from left to right, like he is following the movement of something hanging in the closet. When I was in about the 6th grade, a friend and I went to another girl's house, which was in the country, a few days before Halloween. We wanted spooky things to happen, so we did the typical preteen girl creepy slumber party activities, like playing with the Ouija board and doing Bloody Mary. The next evening, the girl who lived there told us she heard of a crazy lady who lived nearby and threw plates at people. We decided to take their golf cart and try to find her and videotape her throwing plates at us. We didn't. We got lost in woods instead. All of a sudden, I saw something, or someone, floating in the distance. My friend turned on the video camera and we got out of the golf cart to creep closer. We were scared, but curious at this point. It's a person. I remember whispering, when we were close, "He's dead." "No, it's just a Halloween decoration," my friend insisted. It wasn't a Halloween decoration. It was a dead body, hanging from a tree. At first we thought he was murdered, then put up on display. We were freaking out. The concept of suicide was not well formed in our heads, but the knocked over ladder and the note tacked to the tree, which we didn't read, proved otherwise. My friend called the cops. When they arrived we were told to leave immediately. I remember tons of police cars and at least ambulance arrived. They made us turn off the video camera, which had been rolling the whole time, and call her mom to get us back to the house. The parents tried to convince us, as we sat in the kitchen crying, that it was simply a Halloween decoration. But police don't send kids home if it isn't a dead body. Every year before Halloween I have nightmares sparked by this event. I'm on a hill in the dark. There are dead trees surrounding me, with a dead body hanging from each one. I was never a believer in ghost spirits, the paranormal, UFOs and stuff. About 2 years ago me and Buddy decided to go on a drive. It was a hot summer's night and we were bored out of our minds. So we picked up some cigarettes and went on a late night drive. We decided to drive to the top of the mountain. The base of the mountain is about an hour's drive from where I lived and it takes about another hour to drive all the way to the top where they have a restaurant bar. This is in Norway by the way. It was pretty late, around 3 AM in morning. We knew the bar would be closed but we thought we would just chill on the benches, have a smoke and take in the view at first light. So, we get to the base of the mountain and start driving up and round. The road twists round the mountain until you get to the top. So when you reach a turn you can barely see round the corner. It was pitch black darkness. Only the road was visible due to the streetlights, but apart from the road, the edges and mountainside were barely visible. We had been driving for about half an hour. Everything was pretty enjoyable. Absolutely empty roads. Guess all the sane ones were asleep in bed ready to wake up and go to work in the morning. Complete silence. It was just relaxing. As we turn one of the bends, I get this very uneasy feeling as I see something, definitely a person, sitting on a boulder at the edge of the road. My friend sees this as well, but keeps driving, and I am thinking, WTF bro? But I realize that he is turning the car round and going back because it's pretty treacherous to reverse on that road. So we head back, slowly, and I realize that he is fine. He's not getting any bad feelings. He is in his normal mood. So I convinced myself that I am acting weird and that it's probably just some crazy hiker. We park the car right opposite this figure, engine still running, and my friend calls out, "Hi there, are you okay?" I have to admit I was still pretty scared so I didn't say anything. No response. The figure then looks up in our direction and we get the freaking crap scared out of us. We saw that it was a woman, wearing a plain white dress, with very long, beautiful hair, but her face was 3 times the length of a normal person's face. Her eyes were completely blank and she had a smile on her face. I swear to God we both felt so fearful that we were completely paralyzed. We couldn't yell, or even communicate, not even a single word. It felt like we couldn't move. I don't know how he found the courage to press the gas and get the heck out of there, but I do remember that when we both got home we had a very high fever and we were like that for a couple more days afterwards. A dorm at a local university had a student die of alcohol poisoning on his 21st birthday and there have been lots of reports of creepy things happening in the room he died in. Students reported tapping from the inside of the window, shoes being rearranged while they were out, and a loud scraping noise that came from upstairs. People upstairs thought it was coming from downstairs. Anyways, there is a youth sports camp that uses this dorm for a summer residence and I was a counselor so I stayed in the dorm with the kids. I was assigned to stay in the room that the aforementioned student died in. I grew up in the same town as this college, so I knew all about the ghost and didn't think anything of it. There's no such thing as ghosts, right? I moved in and the only thing that looked different about the room, compared to others in the dorm, was that there was a crucifix. During my week crap got weird. Several times I heard loud tapping from the inside of my window. One night, I poked my head outside of my door late one night and yelled lights out to some kids running down the hall. My lights promptly turned out inside my room. Finally, during a break at the end of the week I went back to my room for a nap. I found my TV was on and the volume was extremely loud. I didn't think much of it. Maybe the kids had been playing PS2 in my room and forgot to turn it off. I grabbed the remote, laid on the bed, and hit the power button. The TV stayed on. I took the batteries out, Tried again, and still the TV was on. I picked my lazy butt up, walked to the TV, and pressed the power button. Nothing. I turned the volume down. Nothing. I finally unplugged the TV and nothing. Totally freaking out. I unplugged the cable cord thinking maybe some weird surge through that was keeping the TV on. Nope. I sat there holding the TV power cord, cable cord, and remote and was watching my TV continue to play. I ran from the room, got another counselor, and showed them. He promptly freaked the frick out and we left the building to get the camp director, and when he got to my room the TV was off. Frick. A friend of mine tends to wake up in the middle of the night and then go to sleep a few moments after. The weird thing is that, almost every night, he wakes up at 3:38 am precisely and shortly after a gruesome howl, like a very freaky powerful scream, but at low volume, will appear for approx 10 seconds, and then just nothing. I wish I could say he was crazy, but after I crashed at his place one night, he woke me up just after he himself had woken up at 3:38 am again and he said, "Now listen, I heard the scream too. I have never felt such an intense fear in my life. I've got what I call a bed shaker. Whatever it is has been following me around since I was about 8. My mom used to like to prank me when I was a kid and hide near my bed and shake it. One night, I was in bed and the bed was shaking, so I yelled at my mom, "Stop shaking my bed." I heard her and my father reply, "We're in the living room," and I quickly booted her downstairs. It happened every few years here and there and stopped from the time I was 18 until about a year and a half ago. Now it's happening every few weeks. I'll wake up to my bed shaking like frick, and of course I'm terrified. The one time I was grateful for the bed shaker was about a year ago. My bed started doing that funky dance, and I woke up. My daughter, who was under a year, started howling. I ran into her room and the wee lamp shade on her nightlight had tipped and the bulb started burning through the shade. Thank frick I got in there on time. My twins were 2 months old and barely sleeping through the night. As most nights go, my wife and I, whose room is adjacent to the nursery, were woken around 2 am to some crying coming from one of the cribs. It was my turn to get up, so I saunter over to Gabe, one of the twins, and I hear a woman say, "It's okay, Gaby." My wife goes, "Did you hear that?" She didn't say it. I didn't say it. To this day we have no idea where the voice came from. It wasn't my wife's voice. These spooky boys are out to get you. Like this video in 12 seconds or they will spook you. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.